keycaps. Here at mecha.store, we have a lot of keycaps. Unfortunately, not all of them are what you would call original design. We do this because we have a lot of customers who are brand new to the hobby, and it might be their first time seeing what a custom mechanical keyboard even is. So what they want is something in a design that they love, something accessible that they can take home today, and most importantly, affordable. Unfortunately, these things are not available in a GMK set or other original keycap set. And for us, it's a big dilemma because yes, we want to make the sale, but we also want to educate our customers to what is out there available in the hobby. To be honest, it's a big turnoff to tell a brand new customer that this set, it's in group buy and you have to wait 6, 12, even 18 months and pay 2, 3, 4 times of what we would charge for a clone set. So we have interviewed multiple people in the community who are both designers and some notable hobbyists. And we'll ask them what they think of what we should do as a store. At the end of this video, you, our audience, will have a say whether we keep these clone keycaps or not. And for our first interview, we have... What's your take on this?
Hi everybody, my name is Khalid, or known as Shiro on SGMK on Discord, and I am a desk designer. For newcomers in the hobby, especially, I don't think they are able to fork out $200 to $400 keycaps, and feel good about it. And us in the hobby, who has been in the hobby for a really long time, we have to wait, like you said, 2.5 years, almost 3 years for the keycaps. I somehow support cloning, but at the same time, maybe designers could reach out to these clone makers, Ife and Sugar Cube, I think that's what he's called, and maybe collab with them instead and create original clones or original designs with them. So my stance is I support them to a certain extent, as long as they don't say that these keycaps are original GMK. That would kind of be messed up.
Should we carry clone keycaps at all?
Oh, that's a heavy topic. Yes, as a store that kind of sells to newbies who want to try things out, I guess you should sell clones, but with the understanding that these are clones and there are the original predecessors of these keycaps, like GMK or any other keycaps. Yeah.
So you're saying we should do it with a disclaimer?
With a disclaimer, yeah, 100%.
All right, thank you very much. Check him out at...
You can check out the desk mats at hex.com, Hex Keyboards. They are still on sale until next week. And also...
It's over already. By the time this video out, it might be next month or something.
I'm so sorry, guys. It's over already.
Don't worry, we will make clones of it.
Yeah, I support that. Yeah. And also there will be monoke metal keycaps or enter keycaps of the Good Morning Desk Mats.
That we will also clone.
I think we don't do clones anymore lah. Very bad, okay?
I'm here with Mr. Custer Wayne Custer from Hex Keyboards 4B, 5C and other keyboards. What do you think about this contentious topic in the keyboard community? Should we keep carrying clone keycaps?
Hi, I'm Wayne, also known as Custer Bros in the keyboard community. I co-run Hex Keyboards with my friend and business partner YZ. You asking me this question is very hard because on one hand, I'm an out enthusiast, so I tend to really look to respecting the IP, like the designers who designed that, to put the effort into rendering and everything, they don't really get a cut from that, you see. Most of the clones these days, they're looking at ICs and then they're just making it at the same time. To me, this is really detrimental in the long run if people keep supporting clones, for example. Yes, there is the argument that it is more cost effective, but I would also argue that there are many other keycap sets out there that are not clones, that are easily accessible, that you can buy. It's a very sensitive topic, I understand, so I'll try my best to be very, 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 very impartial as I can. But if you ask me, from my perspective, fuck clones. One more thing you can do, right, a bit of a value-added service is if people want to buy these clones for them and from you guys, I guess it's good that if you guys could educate them on these keycap sets and this is actually a clone of this set that was made this one. So you want to get the proper stuff, like the legit stuff where the designer gets a cut, right?
So with that being said, if I ask you straight up yes or no?
I say yes, but Yes, with the added caveat of you doing the job of like educating the new people lah. Of course, they can't come into the hobby and say, "Oh, I bought this. These are Olivia's. These are they have to know that what they're buying are clones. They have to be comfortable with buying clones, and not directly supporting the designer lah."
Thank you very much. Please tell our audience how can they find you and what's your next upcoming project that you'd like to promote since you have this airtime.
Hey, free. We have 2 projects coming up. One is 60% with RGB underglow. It's priced to be a bit more affordable. It's a polycarbonate bottom, so you can see that sick gamer underglow, And the second keyboard will be a very relatively high-end 10 kilos that will cost an arm and a leg, but I believe that is worth every single dollar.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Mr. Wayne Custer. Wayne. We're here today with Binge.
Hey, I'm Binge. I'm also known as Hungerworks Studio, and I make artisan keycaps. I've collaborated on keycap sets like Mudbeam.
And P. Wade.
I am Philip, aka P Wade 3. I've done GMK Taro, GMK Analog Dreams, GMK Tai T, and DCS Windbreaker.
So do you guys have a clue of what we're here to actually talk about today?
Not really, no.
No, okay. Clone keycaps. Clone keycaps in a nutshell. The typical conversation that we have in the community, it's always the cloners versus the original designers, right? We feel that we want to add to this conversation is us as a store, us as a retailer. For context, when we first started, of course, we had to buy clone keycaps of, from China, from Taobao, from Alibaba, whatever. That's how we sustain, because how can you sell keyboard bases and switches and not have keycaps? Right? It doesn't compute. So we are in a tough spot as a retailer. And we've had this conversation as a team. It's a very tough conversation. Do we want to keep carrying clone keycaps or not? If we don't carry clones, it limits the choice for customers, new customers. But the enthusiasts get mad at you because hey, you're selling clone keycaps, what the fuck, you're not supporting artisans, We don't feel good about that personally. It's a business and us wanting to support creators thing, because we do try our best to support local creators ourselves.
You're talking a lot about perspective as a store, as a retailer, as somebody who services, say, the entry-level crowd as well as the enthusiasts. Who do you want to see shopping at your store? What will keep your store open? There is a little bit of perspective and empathy that people have to have in these situations. Just for perspective, in 2007, there were no keycap manufacturers that would take orders from anybody except an industrial company. Fast forward 2 years, we got Signature Plastics to work with us and give us an MOQ that we could meet as a community. And it was really hard. We had to take a whole year of gathering up interested individuals from North America because the community wasn't global and connected. It was global, but it was segmented. Korea ended up having its own community. China had its own community. Japan had its own community. North America had its own community. And Europe kind of had this weird in-between with the United States and having its own space. Another thing to take into perspective was back when I started, the community was more about upcycling. You found an old Cherry POS keyboard or some kind of high-end old keyboard and you restored it. You put in a new controller so you could get things like N-key rollover and programmable layers and even just a programmable layout. We didn't really have keycap sets that came around more than one key set once per year, and then that was it. That was all of the key sets that would exist until we ran that set again. If you didn't like the color, you were waiting a year. You were just like, I'll stick with my stock set. Or another thing that was really prevalent back then was e-cycling. You could find double shot, like really beautiful double shot key sets on old keyboards that people had at Goodwill or recycling centers. People would go to big, e-cycling centers and look for these vintage keyboards and get these vintage caps, like really awesome, beautiful, dye sublimated key sets, with the sub legends and things like that. We had those options and they were available kind of out in the wild. But once that dried up, it became entirely dependent on the manufacturers to make a supply for the demand. You've got to think if you've got all of those new members joining into the community, wanting to shop at your store, how do you supply them? And this is where the clones ended up really coming into their own. Kind of rolling back to perspectives, P-Wade, do you have any like kind of ways that you could bring the more modern community into that transitionary period where the key set makers, the big names, started getting backlogs and what that was like?
I guess obviously, you know, it's hard to ignore the COVID boom.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, even before COVID, the backlogs were already getting intense. GMK was already, I couldn't recall exactly how many months out they were already logged at the time, but then you dumped the boom in the hobby of COVID, combined with the fact that you're getting production shut down at the factory, and you're having supply chain issues for the actual plastics to make the caps. So it's like you've got this massive spike in interest, but the actual production just nosedive. It's hard for me to begrudge the customers of clone keycaps. At the end of the day, I do get it. Like, between the prices, the wait times, especially, you know, when you are in a country that is not predominantly served by the hobby, it is what it is. I'm not gonna go fight someone with a clone set of Taro on their keyboards. Like, it's fine. But it is the matter of the clone manufacturers that I have more of an issue with. That's where I take umbrage. If you're the end user, it's...
Yeah, I mean, but we are in the middle, you know? We're
Right.
in the middle between manufacturer and
Yeah.
customers. So it's like retailers like us, we are like kind of perpetrating.
But that also becomes an opportunity because these companies, and I don't know, like you've done some custom work with your store before, manufacturers, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think every store tries to get to that point because you want something that makes you stand out from the rest of the pack. Working with clone manufacturers does give you the option to eventually run something that is more bespoke to you. It does open a door. I don't think clone manufacturers are inherently bad. It's the fact that like what they're choosing to represent as their product happens to be something that just a person in an enthusiast community brought out there, and they're losing a lot of recognition as being the origin of that design, especially when they do it like letter for letter. They don't switch up the placement of the colors. They don't do their own thing. It's like pretty one-to-one.
Yeah, the novelties. Yeah.
So I think it's definitely fair for people to criticize, like enthusiasts to criticize, oh, these clones exist. But what P-Wade and, you know, what you're saying here is like, think about where it's coming from. As a store, you need product. If the manufacturers that are making these clones aren't making anything but clones, you've got a problem because that sets a precedent for them to keep doing it. You can't help but support that because you're in the market, but they can definitely help in providing something that is different than certain bespoke sets. Maybe they don't have the confidence or the vendor interest to pursue that, but it could change. I mean, that will largely depend on what the vendors and new customers show as a point of interest.
You're definitely right. You hit the nail on the head right there, because take Akko for example. They started out with clones, and I think they very recently decided to stop doing that, and they actually made original colorway sets. That's a good sign that the rest of these clone manufacturers, you know, if they have money, they have no problem paying a designer. And
Right.
I think it's the willingness to do it, and it's like the market appetite. To distill this entire conversation, if I were to just put this question to the both of you, it's simply in: should we keep on carrying clone keycaps? Yes or no? What would your answer be?
See, it's a hard answer. Like,
I know.
off the cuff, I would say no.
Fair.
You know, as a designer, I don't like seeing that sort of thing. I think the fact that you are even questioning this, whether to continue selling clones, I think it offers a bit of insight that, like, you don't want to. So if financially you can swing it, then get rid of them. But that's the question is, you are running a business. You have bills to pay. Like, if they are that much a core of how you are doing that, then I get that they're a necessary evil. But is it something to strive towards phasing out, getting them to provide you something bespoke?
I think clones found their way to say, we have the means to make a product to fill your demand. They should be taking a stance now where they say, we can meet your demand. What do these customers really want? If I had to make a call out to your community, you guys should be like working with Mecha, like, yeah, we want you to drop the clones. If they're saying we like these price points, we like this availability, there needs to be a new conversation starting up. How do you get these companies to shift their manufacturing to give you all what you want? Make some local designers really happy. Give you guys a platform to get your name known, like Taro or something like that. Your local community probably has some very creative people who could help you reach out to manufacturers, say, look, we've got these colors together. We've got them in this presentation. Here's our markup, and check out our surveys. As a storefront, you have that option to reach your customers, just like with this video. And I hope it works.
I hope.
So yeah, drop the clones, find a new solution.
Thank you guys so much for your time and appreciate all the historical context of keycaps in the community. Thank you for your perspective in this, and we hope to see you again. Okay.
I'd love to be on again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Welcome, guys. Today we have Mr. HipyoTech. Howdy, hey. Please introduce yourself.
Howdy,
Please introduce yourself to our audience, please.
I'm HipyoTech. I make keyboard content videos. I also design keycap sets, a little bit of everything.
What's your take on this? Especially now that you are a creator yourself, how much responsibility do you put on the retailer?
I've taken multiple different perspectives over the years. There were points where I was more pro-clone simply because people were struggling financially and the prices that were being charged for keycap sets were too insane. And it's definitely so much harder to hold that stance nowadays when there's affordable, great looking keycap sets that you can get in stock. To specifically answer your question, you'd have to define clone in a sense of, is a clone a keycap set's colors? Is a clone the novelty? Is a clone the name? What are we discussing here specifically?
That's a great point, and you're the first one to have actually brought up and make that distinction.
That's where it's tough. I've seen some where you can't quite call it a clone. Some of the Akko sets specifically are pretty blatantly easy to call clones, and some of the other ones it's they're not using the same name. They're using different novelties. The colors are maybe slightly off from the Pantones. It's that can't quite be called a clone. Me as a designer, if I saw a set using similar colors to one of my sets, I'm like, what of it? Because obviously color palettes are not the most copyrightable thing in the world. But me as a designer, if I saw somebody using the artwork that I had commissioned or the artwork that I did and then selling that as their own, I would be pissed. That's straight up thieving. Even the naming scheme, when you break down naming schemes, obviously you can't own specifically one. You could copyright it, but nobody copyrights their names. There's so much marketing that goes behind keycap sets. For example, you brought up Drop, GMK Red Samurai. They're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars promoting these sets on creators, affiliate payouts, etc. And then you get a clone that piggybacks on all of the marketing, all of the hard work they've done to build that keycap set as a brand. It's decently unethical, but then it's also hard to place, right? Because it's supporting people that don't quite have as much money to spend. So it's kind of a Robin Hood type of situation, but there's still something wrong there. There's a couple different ways to look at it, right? You could take a super hardline stance against it and then potentially look stupid because you haven't fully flushed out your argument. Or you could take a vaguely gray area stance on it because there's obviously things that I'm not informed about and things that I don't fully know. Where I will say is hardline, right? If somebody made a keycap set, they called it PBT Delight, they took my novelties, they took my colors, they took my artwork, that's theft. I hate it. It's stupid. If somebody sold that, I would be pissed off. I mean, I would probably take some form of legal action, even though it wouldn't go anywhere. Yeah, like if I walked in a store and I saw that, I would not support that store. I'd make an angry tweet. But that's just me, right? Like as the creator, like to see somebody that would be potentially profiting off of my hard work, but then like me not getting any credit for it, or like that's a bummer.
Should we stop carrying clones?
I would say yeah. I mean, like the problem is I can't cover all the nuance in an yes or no answer. So like I stop selling clones as a storefront, right? Especially because you're in a spot where you're wanting to move more towards producing your own like products and like hiring designers. It's just like it's against your own ethos and your own self-interests to be supporting that. I think an argument that doesn't get brought up enough is like you could get a cheap watch or you could get a Rolex. You're not like necessarily entitled to the Rolex just because it's nicer and it looks the best, because the Rolex had lots of work put into it to make it what it is. So it's like if you go out and buy a fake Rolex, like, you know?
Yeah.
If you started like a small watch store and you knew all the best watches were Rolexes and whatever, I don't know watches that well. So you went out and you bought a bunch of fake Rolexes because it was so much cheaper and easier to do. You're going to lose all your credibility in the watch making space and that because you decided to go the easy route.
Thank you very much, Mr. HipyoTech, for your time and input and perspective, which was incredible. Any last words? Where can people find you? You know, anything you'd like to plug to our audience?
Yeah, of course. No problem. You can find me at HipyoTech on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and check out my keycap set, Polycaps Hippo, on Kinetic Labs.
And also keep on watching for his new sets. I don't know when they're coming, but they're coming somehow.
Hopefully this year.
Hopefully this year. A big thank you to all our creators who have participated in our interview. We appreciate the time. But at the end of the day, we still need to make a decision. And it all boils down to you, the audience. In the description below, there'll be a link to a survey, a simple yes or no question, because we need to make this very important decision to see if we keep on carrying clone keycaps or not. And we would trust you, our community, to guide us in this keyboard journey that we are on. And if you don't like the outcome, well, too bad. We put out to a vote. And if you have anything to add to this hot button discussion, leave a comment below where we will read every single one of them and take them into account in our decision. Thank you.